OnePlus is launching the OnePlus Clover. Now, the OnePlus Clover is a very budget-minded phone. It's going to start at $200. And let's see if I can find these specs for you guys. So we got Android 10 and Oxygen OS 10, a 6.5-inch HD plus IPS. Yikes. I'm sorry. That gives me iPhone SE vibes. Ugh. Not a fan of IPS or 720p, but that's what we're getting here. It is a $200 phone. You get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 460. Okay.
Yeah.
4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of storage. It says micro SD. I read up before there was no micro SD, but good thing we see that here. You always like to see the ability to add more storage, especially on 64 gigabytes. You got a maybe decent camera in the 13, and then 2 you can just scratch off.
Oh yeah, they're probably gonna be like something dumb, like a depth sensor and a micro lens or something.
Oh, that's exactly what they are. That's gotta be.
Yeah, depth sensor and micro lens.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. They do retain the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so that's nice to see for you guys who love audio. 6,000 milliamp hour battery, huge. That's great. That thing's gonna last like days. Imagine this processor, the IPS panel at 720p. This thing is gonna last a long time. And 18 watts. You know what? That's bigger than the 5-watt charger that comes in the SE, so we'll take it. But yeah, for me personally, I'm quite disappointed in OnePlus here because I don't know if you saw when Marquez interviewed Carl on the Nord. Carl made it a point that OnePlus didn't want to ship junk, and that's a Steve Jobs statement, but they didn't want to ship anything that felt like slow. And I have to think, since he said that they needed to wait for the mid-range processor in the 765G that they apparently used to get a lot better to where it feels no different from their flagships. And then now they're coming out with this Clover series, which is separate from the Nord. That just feels like a big compromise. It feels like they are settling. And, you know, given their slogan of never settle, this doesn't settle with me well. Lots of settles there.
All the puns intended.
All the puns intended.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I'm not really a fan of a couple of things I see here because of the financial situation in my country. I find myself in a position where I have to constantly look at mid-rangers and budget devices to recommend to friends and family and so on and so forth. And to be very honest with you, at $200, you could get better from other smartphone companies, from other, you could get better from Xiaomi, definitely.
Yeah.
The Redmi Note 9 or the Redmi 9 rather is at 180 or $150. The Redmi Note 9S is about $200 or so. You get a 1080p display. Yes, it's LCD, but it's 1080p. You get the hole punch. You get a glass sandwich. It's glass on both sides, not plastic at the back. Yeah, you get 25-watt fast charging or so. Yeah, you get a 5,020 milliamp hour battery. You get a much faster processor than this. I don't remember what. I think maybe a 730. I feel like the mid-range sector is dominated by Xiaomi, maybe Oppo, maybe Realme. And the funny thing is, Realme is okay. No, let's not even get into that. But yeah, but I feel like if OnePlus really wanted to branch into the really, really budget segments or the entry level segment, they could have done a bit better than this. They could have done a bit better than this.
In the US, where this is actually coming, unlike the Nord, you mentioned how Xiaomi, Redmi, all those guys are doing well. Now, my alternative is to people in the US because we don't have those kind of options. Go for the renewed or the used flagships or older phones because you can get a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus for about $200. You can get the Pixel 3a XL for about $200. You can get the OnePlus 6T actually for about $200. All three of which would be better than this option in my opinion. The only area this probably beats it really is battery life. But other than that, those phones are going to give you a much better experience for the price.
You see, that's the problem when a lot of companies, one particular company, which I will call out, Transsion Holdings, they are the scourge of Africa, keep on tormenting us with terrible, terrible phones, micro USB, and so on and so forth. They feel like, because the phones are so cheap, the only thing they have to change every year is the battery. So this year we get 4,000 milliamp hours. Next year we get 5,000. The next year we get 6,000. The processor, the chipset remains the same. The display remains the same. We still get micro USB. The cameras remain the same. Everything remains the same. You still have a hot mess of a smartphone, but with a bigger battery. People, we do not want battery banks. We want smartphones.
Yeah.
If I wanted 10,000 milliamp hours, I would go out and buy a power bank from Anker or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like that's what OnePlus is doing here because honestly, the processor is subpar. The Snapdragon 460. I know what I personally had to deal with the Snapdragon 450. I hated it on the Galaxy A6 Plus. That was about 2 years ago. It was a terrible processor on a terrible device.
So this is probably going to be the same.
Yes, yeah. I think so. I mean, okay, well, to be fair, that device was running Samsung Experience. This was before One UI. So that could have, done something. Oxygen OS might make this device feel a lot smoother and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, this isn't going to be, I don't think it's going to be good. Like, last thing, I feel like OnePlus should have allowed the Nord, go to the States. Like, they should have shipped the Nord to the United States. That's their biggest mistake with this entire, their shipping process and so on and so forth. Because the OnePlus Nord is very impressive. If they wanted to enter the US market, they should have entered with that and be like, yeah, we have a cheaper alternative to all these expensive smartphones. Come and buy this. And then people would be like, oh, yeah, okay, this makes sense. If you introduce the Clover into the US, where your competition is Samsung and Apple and maybe LG and Motorola or something, you're basically just giving a lot of people, especially Apple users, no hate, but you're giving a lot of Apple users reasons to be like, look how slow your Android is. Look how bad your Android camera is. It's not Android. It's just...
Yep, and that is a huge problem because at least here in the US, you're spot on. A lot of people are like, ew, Android. You guys have terrible cameras. You guys are slow. But if you look at the Androids of recent days and compare them to the flagship, same price and everything, they're doing quite well, if not better, than the iPhones in many areas. But to your point about Oxygen OS versus your experience with like TouchWiz, right? Oxygen OS, although it's very smooth, it's very clean, it's a big operating system. It takes up a lot of storage. It's quite heavy, actually, even though it runs quite smoothly. So I believe it was Max Weinbach who pointed this out. So I definitely worry about Oxygen OS 10 even on this. I think you could slow down their experience and kind of ruin their image of, oh, we're speed.
Yeah, I mean, OnePlus always came up with the entire, like, built for speed slogan. That was their entire shtick. Like, they're like, oh, we're cheap, we're fast, we're giving you flagship, what's it called? The flagship experience with, with a reasonable price. But from the OnePlus 7 Pro, they just started, the OnePlus 6T, basically, they just started straying further and further away from their source material. And they've become this jumbled thing that I don't even know what to classify them as anymore. I mean, they went from having one phone a year to two phones a year, the number and the T, which was okay. Then they started having the OnePlus 6, the OnePlus 6T, the OnePlus 6T Pro, the OnePlus 6 Pro, and I'm like, okay. And then they started with the OnePlus Nord, OnePlus Clover, and before you know it, if they're not careful, they will start releasing 40 phones a year like our beloved Samsung, and they will not update anyone.
Yeah, and that's a huge concern. Like you said, OnePlus is straying away from their kind of image. Like I said in the beginning, never settle, clearly settling right now. And that is a big issue to me. Although some people are probably going to be interested in this phone nevertheless, I just feel it's a bad look for OnePlus.
But, I mean, the name of the phone is pretty catchy. OnePlus Clover.
Yes, I do like the name.
Yeah,
OnePlus Nord, OnePlus Clover. I actually like them. I'm a fan. But that's going to be it for today.
We hope you enjoyed that Tech News Nerds clip. If you want to see more, the podcast is linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching.